It all started with a voicemail. It wasn't a rejection, and it wasn't an offer. It was just silence, followed by a polite, automated message thanking him for his interest. Mark listened to it twice. Then he set his phone down and just stared at the kitchen table. His coffee was cold. His kids were already at school. And in that quiet, empty moment, something hit him, and it hit him a lot harder than the rejection itself. He had done everything right. He went to college. He had years of experience. His resume was clean, no gaps, no drama, and still nothing. What makes this whole situation even worse is that everywhere he looked, he was being told the exact opposite story. Headlines were shouting that jobs were back. News reports claimed the market was strong. Politicians were on TV, pointing to numbers and charts that made it seem like opportunity was everywhere. But Mark didn't feel any of that. And neither did millions of other people just like him. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that no one really likes to say out loud. Jobs didn't disappear, good jobs did. And that's the real story, hiding just beneath the headlines. A decade ago, a job meant stability. It was something you could plan your life around, build a future around, and even just breathe around. But today, a lot of jobs look perfectly fine on paper, but they completely collapse the moment real life shows up. The paychecks are smaller, often not keeping up with the real cost of living. The hours are unstable and unpredictable. The expectations, however, are higher than ever. You see this all the time. One role quietly turns into two. Then it turns into three. And suddenly, people aren't being lazy, they're completely exhausted. They're doing the work of an entire team for the salary of a single person, and they're expected to be grateful for it. Companies will tell you they're hiring, and technically, that's true. But they're hiring cautiously, they're hiring strategically, and in many ways, they're hiring defensively. They aren't building teams anymore, they're re-stretching the ones they already have to their absolute breaking point. This is exactly why so many job listings feel so strange right now. You see one position asking for 5 completely different skill sets. You see entry-level roles that demand years and years of experience. You see pay ranges that are so wide they almost feel like a joke. Salary from $40,000 to $120,000. What does that even mean? But it's not confusion. It's leverage. When money gets tight for a company, they protect their profit margins first. And they don't do it by making big public announcements. They do it by slowing everything down almost imperceptibly. They implement quiet hiring freezes. They delay replacing people who leave. They adopt a "let's just see how this quarter goes" mentality. And while they wait, people like Mark are stuck in limbo. They're not unemployed enough to trigger widespread panic or government support, but they're not secure enough to relax, to plan, or to live without constant low-grade anxiety. They're just suspended. Technology is quietly accelerating this whole process. Not in the dramatic way people imagine. There are no robots marching into the office to take over. Instead, it happens subtly. Software starts to absorb the little edges of work. It handles the first draft of an email. It takes over scheduling. It runs basic analysis. It manages simple customer support queries. Each piece is small, but it all adds up. It's just enough to delay bringing someone new on board for another month, another quarter. And that delay matters far more than layoffs. Because layoffs are a shock to the system. They get headlines, they create a sense of urgency. But delays suffocate. They quietly block entry-level workers from ever getting their foot in the door. They trap mid-level workers, preventing them from moving up and growing in their careers. And they freeze wages for everyone without ever having to use the word freeze. This is where the real emotional damage starts to set in. People start blaming themselves. They think, maybe I should have studied something else. Maybe I waited too long to look for a new job. Maybe I asked for too much money. But it wasn't you who failed. The system changed quietly, slowly, while everyone was just busy trying to survive. Families are the first ones to feel this pressure. Not because they failed to plan or save, but because a household budget can't absorb endless instability. Rent doesn't wait for your next paycheck. Groceries don't negotiate their prices. Childcare costs don't care about economic cycles. So households adapt. They make tough choices. They delay doctors' visits. They put off necessary home repairs. They carry credit card balances for longer than they ever planned. These aren't reckless choices, they are survival choices. And the most dangerous part of it all, people feel completely alone in this struggle because the official numbers, the headlines, the experts on TV, they all say things are fine, but their own lives, their own bank accounts, their own stress levels are telling them a very different story. Here's something that rarely gets said in finance videos or economic reports. This phase, this feeling of being stuck, is real and it's temporary. Job markets move in cycles. They always have, and they always will. Pressure builds, and then, eventually, it releases. The people who struggle the most during these times aren't the ones who fall. They're the ones who panic at exactly the wrong moment. They make a reactive decision out of fear, locking themselves into a bad situation. Right now, for many people, the game isn't about winning. It's not about landing that dream job with a corner office. It's about staying flexible. It's about protecting your options. It's about reducing financial and mental pressure wherever you can. It's about avoiding big, irreversible decisions that lock you into more stress. The people who come out of these cycles the strongest are rarely the loudest or the flashiest. They're the ones who knew when to slow down while everyone else was rushing. They're the ones who preserved their energy while others were burning out. They're the ones who learned how to wait patiently without giving up hope. Mark eventually did get another call, and it wasn't because he magically became smarter or more qualified overnight. It was simply because cycles turn. They always do. And when the market did turn, because he had stayed grounded, because he hadn't panicked, he was ready. If this story feels familiar to you, if you feel like you're running in place no matter how hard you try, I want you to hear this. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're living inside a system that shifted quietly beneath your feet. And understanding that not fighting it, not blaming yourself, is the first and most important step to navigating it. If you want more stories like this, ones that explain what's really happening with money and work without all the shouting and the hype, consider subscribing. This channel isn't about telling you how to get rich quick, it's about giving you clarity, especially when it actually matters. Thanks for watching.